To begin with, all BuildWagon projects are loaded using a project address, which is just a string of numbers. The most efficient way I found is to scan the QR code using the HoloLens camera, and then it will automatically put that string of numbers in and load the project, which is just what is happening here. The project will take a few seconds to load. In my demo specifically, all of the holograms have not been loaded into the scene yet. BuildWagon is waiting for the user to say a keyword. However, you can actually tell the project is running by looking at the right and left indicators, which point towards where the holograms would be. BuildWagon determines if a word is said depending on if it crosses the voice recognition's confidence parameter. In my demo specifically, the keyword is start. Right here is a menu that follows the user around. The follow feature can be disabled by pressing the follow button. And then over here is a text input box where you can type text into. This box specifically is set up so that whatever you type will be converted to speech using a speech-to-text function. However, it currently isn't implemented because it needs to be paid for. But the text box is set up, so when I close out this text box, ideally a voice feature should say, "Hi." Next is a speech-to-text box, so whatever I say will be transferred to this label. Hello? Hello. It even interprets case sensitivity based on how I say the word, and this does work with whole sentences. Then, we have a series of cubes, each with different functions. The little explanation is activated by pointing at the cube. This next cube is created with a red material and a cube geometry. Its geometry will change whenever it's tapped. These geometries can be as simple as a cube or sphere, or complex shapes with individually defined curves. The reset button will reset any changes done to the cube. This blue cube will move up whenever the user points at it. It doesn't have to be tapped or individually moved at all. Notice that instead of a tooltip that shows up when you point at the cube, there's a persistent label instead. The yellow cube simply rotates, demonstrating how changes can be made to a hologram every frame at a consistent rate. The yellow hologram is being rotated by 1/100th of a degree each frame. The rotation can be stopped by tapping it. The white cube changes the material or color whenever it is tapped. This is very similar to the red cube, in which the geometry of the cube is changed. Holograms are defined as a mesh of a geometry and color. The red and white cubes show how both of these core properties can be changed. The last cube is a hologram that, when tapped, has a distance constraint from the user. It always will stay at least 1 meter away from the user, which is why it teleported away from me when I tapped it. Notice that as I get closer to it, the cube moves backwards away from me. If I tap it to disable the constraint, I can get closer to the cube without it moving away from me. Then, once the constraint is disabled, I can reset it back to its original position and it will stay there. This next hologram is a bit more complex. The texture of the material is simply an image of my dog that's been applied to the hologram. Next, let's look at the sphere. It uses BuildWagon's built-in interaction function, allowing you to rotate, move, and scale it. The moving function previously displayed had been manually programmed by me. This sphere is a bit different though. The changes I'm making right now will actually stay persistent whenever I reload the project. So instead of being by my dog, if I reload this scene, it will be the same size and right here on this table. BuildWagon does this by saving the X, Y, and Z attributes of the sphere's position, rotation, and scale, and then when the project is loaded, BuildWagon knows where to place the sphere. I set this aside earlier, but again, this is a small menu for the scene. I disabled its following feature, but now with it enabled, you can see how it always stays within my view, even when I move and turn my head. There's another button on the menu that will reset the entire scene and any changes made to all the cubes. BuildWagon's built-in movement feature is a little buggy and inconsistent at times, which is why I made my own, but pressing Done will save the changes made to the sphere. Lastly, there is this canvas over here I didn't mention, and it allows you to create custom materials for holograms just by manually programming and drawing the color. The documentation and code for all of these features, as well as works in progress, will be available to future Pemberton A-STEM Academy students as well as the general public via the Google Classroom link. For a full list of possible features, make sure to view BuildWagon's documentation for their full library, as well as their own tutorials.